When I was probably a grad student, somebody once said that there are three things in any classroom: the teacher, the student, and the stuff. And the goal of a good teacher is to get it to be the student and the teacher versus the stuff, rather than the students versus the teacher and the stuff. And I think I'd struggled with that for most of my career, where I think up to this point, it was mostly me and the stuff versus the students. I hadn't ever really managed to convince the students I was kind of on their side in any kind of direct way. I think I'd had intermediate success at that level, but there was still this more or less adversarial relationship. And what was really interesting about this approach is that it really does put you in a more of a advisory role, or ability to sort of helping people to be able to accomplish what they're trying to, what they're trying to do. It's what they're trying to do, not what I'm trying to do.
The way this should work is that I'm not here. I'm only going to jump in if you guys like ground to a halt. Okay, in other words, it's up to you guys as a group at this point to decide which one's the right answer, or to decide that it's reasonable that it's both. At that point, if you ground, if you, as a default option, you just say, well, everyone's right, then I'm going to jump in. And if I think that that's not a valid position, in other words, you just can't get to a point where everyone gets the points. Someone has to be right.
What's really happened is that I'm very much in the helping role in this context. I'm not even explicitly part of the discussion much of the time, because the students are working this together in the teams, and I'm just sort of the referee, making sure that they're following the time limits and providing answers. And the teams actually are supposed to argue with each other, not with me. And so I literally, if too many students start looking at me rather than the other team member, I literally get out of the way. So you should be talking to them, not to me. I actually let them resolve the debate. So I'll get 4 teams up on the board, and there's a direct question about supply and demand, for example, or what's just moved, or what happened to the prices. And I'll say to them, and they'll go up on the board, and 2 of the groups will have one answer, and the 3rd group will have another answer, and the 4th group will have another answer. I'll say, you can't all be right. And they'll say, well, who's right? I said, well, who do you think's right? I mean, they have to decide. So the guys up on the board, they have to decide if they're going to argue for their point, or do they think the other team was right? And I'm not even in the picture, except that I'm just keeping it going.
And why are you looking at me? I'm not the one who
decided. Well, the question is who would have picked a trial? If you're 100% guilty, then if you're 100% sure you'll be convicted, then you wouldn't bother going to trial, because it doesn't matter either way. It's going to cost you $10,000. It's just you're going to have to spend some time in the trial. Whereas if you're 100% innocent and you have 0 chance of conviction, you want to go to trial because there's no way you can lose. If you're 100% sure that you won't lose, then the value of a trial is you're going to come out with $0. Whereas a plea is going to cost you $10,000.
Yeah, I was just looking at it as like a mathematical situation where, if you know what I mean.
This will change the way your classroom looks, and it changes it in a way that's just fun. And I'm able to now accomplish what I was trying to accomplish. My students are taking materials, taking concepts that they, were at best memorizing before, and they're applying them to real situations, real context, and they're able to appreciate what these new sets of concepts bring to the table that maybe what they had learned before hadn't.